All right, so just starting here at Auburn because that was kind of the big news here in the SEC. When you and I spoke last, Shane, we talked about senior defensive lineman Tyrone Truesdell. They have announced, they've confirmed it. He's no longer on the team. He was a super senior comeback for, extra senior year, if you will, projected to start on that defensive line. So that's a pretty big blow there for Auburn. But, kind of as you noted, that's tends to happen with these first year coaches.
Right.
I'm not saying they ran him off or anything like that because I certainly don't think a player of his caliber you run off, but maybe just for whatever reason just didn't mesh with the coaching staff. Or I know he just graduated on Saturday, so I'm sure that was part of his decision to come back. And this may not be the last we hear from him. He, now that he's a graduate transfer, he could potentially walk on anywhere else and play football. But just wanted to make that little note.
Real quick on
Uh-huh.
that note, can he play this year or is he out this year? It's like because you mentioned like a graduate transfer. Now he's got his
Right.
degree. I mean, he can just go anywhere. He doesn't have to sit out, right?
I believe so. So that's the uniqueness of getting that under college or undergraduate degree. You can just, there's no way, there never has been in the last 5, 6, 7 years. So, yeah, I mean, any SEC team looking for help, give Truesdale a call. You know what?
Well, is there any places to land an Auburn lineman in the transfer portal? Come on, baby, come to Knoxville.
Yeah, right there. Rodney Gardner is former defensive line coach. So
That's right,
I would
man.
not be stunned. I'm just pure speculating here, but I would not be stunned if Tennessee picks up that call. They could use all the defensive linemen they could get. But speaking of Derek Mason, Shane, this is something that we highlighted in the spring, and I thought this was one of the first indications that I really was liking the new coaching staff at Auburn because we have moved J.J. Pegues to the defensive line. So maybe he's a natural guy that takes over this spot. I'm not suggesting he's going to be a day one starter, but maybe by the end of the season, after playing tight end last year, it was always fun to see him get a catch or carry, whatever the hell they were trying to get 6 yards and making it look funny. But
Yeah.
you could tell just how big and fast and his moves for that size. If he were to play defensive line, he's got a Sunday future. So let's kick it over to Derek Mason. Talks about J.J. Pegues and how that transition's coming along. And he also talks about Donovan Kaufman, who he got to coach at Vanderbilt and now has followed him down to Auburn.
Derek, Donovan Kaufman is a guy that ended up following you from Vandy to Auburn. What's your relationship like with him? And then what have you seen out of him this summer and this fall that would make you, like, what would you expect out of him this season?
Yeah, Christian. Donovan and I, have been close for a while. I think it starts with the recruiting process, right? Okay, you go through the recruiting process, and obviously I became close with him and his family, and they trusted like the idea that I've always talked about. I think in recruiting, it's always about as a coach and as a program, can you give a better product back to parents than the one they drop off? And his parents felt that way about his time. Even though Donovan went through COVID and in his first year playing, at Vandy, had a good experience. I think they really trusted the idea of and I was who I said I was, and so with that, our relationship, has been good. It's going to continue to grow. I believe this much. We're very much alike in terms of our personalities. He wants to win, I want to win. He's a competitor, I'm a competitor. And I think that's what's shown up for him every day. There's not a drill that he's in that he's not competing, with Smoke or by Darius or, Ladarius Tennyson or Geis. I mean, it's a competitive group, man, but he's an alpha competitor. And, he actually competes more than he speaks. So what it comes down to is that, he's a worker. And those are the type of guys that you want to be around.
Coach, could you talk about the big picture goals for preseason camp before you guys get into actually game planning for the season games and the opener?
Yeah, big picture goals are just about, football intelligence, football IQ, and technique. Coach always says, an effort with technique in terms of how we play and what we do. We want to be intentional about what that, looks like. That means every day, looking at the tape, being able to evaluate what we did well, what we can do better, okay, and just trying to stack good days on top of good days. And I think when you can do that, what you're looking at is working towards the idea of being consistent. A lot of people want perfection. I'm not looking for perfection. I'm looking for consistency. I can trust that. Okay, man, and I know what that looks like. And so if we can put a consistent, run stop defense or, pass defense on the field, we can get to situational football and understand third down, the red zone, to end the half, end the game situations. We got a chance to be a pretty good defense. And so with that, you start with the small things like running to the ball, setting edges, stopping the run, eliminating explosives. And then what you do is start to hone in on the ideas of, how those things factor in, to winning ball games, first, second, third, fourth quarter.
Derek, you guys moved JJ to the defensive line there near the end of spring. Just what have you seen from him since then and what he is capable of doing going into the fall?
JJ's getting progressively better, every day. Coach Eason and Coach Walker do a good job of pushing these guys in terms of the indie. I think, it's a process. And so, like, for him, just challenge him every day, to be his best self and, not getting frustrated, if it doesn't go exactly the way he wants it to go that day. I think JJ, is a guy who's extremely athletic and talented and, he wants to do everything right. And so, as you're learning, okay, sometimes that could be a frustrating process, but I think for him, it's been, he's picked it up fast, he's getting better every day, and the nuances are about repetition. So for him, the more reps he's taking, the better he gets. It's just good to see, this big, explosive, strong, and extremely athletic guy, up front because, when you watch him in one-on-ones or when you watch him in 9-on-7, he can move the line of scrimmage, he can move laterally, and I just like the temperament that he's shown, since he's come back from offense to defense.
All right, Shane, so I don't know about you, but hearing Coach Mason brought me back to his old Vandy days and played his clips on here. But, if nothing else, I think we got confidence here at Auburn that, the defense is going to play about as well as they possibly can with Derek Mason calling the shots down there because there's not hardly anyone better they could have hired to run this defense on the Plains, don't you think?
Mike, two things here. For starters, before we get too far, don't think for one moment that Gary Danielson is not going to mention something about JJ playing tight end when he gets his first tackle. It's going to be 15 minutes of, hey, let's roll that tape, from last year. That's exactly what's going to happen. Now, on the second part, I want to tell you, there's a little pep. There's a little feistiness coming out of Coach Mason here, I thought he was a little bit of doom and gloom when he was with Vandy last season. But could you imagine leaving Nashville, coming down here to the Plains and looking in that room and say, oh, Popo, why, hello, Smoke, hey, come here, buddy. I mean,
oh, yeah.
the kid, he just got a raise, if you ask me. He's got new toys to play with. So Mason's going to have them boys ready, and I love it because he's a fun coach. He is a player's coach. You've talked to some players that's been with him in the past. I bet these guys come out, they're cleaning house. Clearly that's happening behind the scenes, but I think you're going to have the best product out there in Auburn when the season starts.
Yeah, just that little cherry on the top is Donovan Kaufman. You're taking maybe Vanderbilt's best defensive player, and he transfers down there with you. So, I mean, that just speaks to what you're saying right there.
Coincidence? I think not.
Well, staying in the state of Alabama, Shane, let's kick it on down to Tuscaloosa, where, hey, I got bad news for the rest of the SEC because I'm starting to buy into old Bill O'Brien. I don't know about you, Shane, but, of course, he's the big question. I don't want to say question mark, but just the storyline heading into the season. How does he adapt after being in the NFL for so long? And, it's been several years since he's been in the college game. How do they adjust after having Steve Sarkisian, who, you may have concerns about him being a head coach, but he was just so damn good as an offensive play caller last year. And that's during his first meetup. We don't get Bill O'Brien. We don't get any of the coordinators or assistants down at Alabama very often. So this is the one time a year they get to speak. So had to throw up these comments from Bill O'Brien. Talked about Bryce Young and kind of what makes him special. And, the relationship that he has. I really like the fact, Shane, that it's not all about, the quarterback's got to gain his trust. Right. He's got to gain the quarterback's trust. It's got to be a mutual thing. So I really like that. And the fact that he said, they've been so successful at Alabama. He'd be a fool to come in there and try to change up the offense to do whatever the hell he wanted to do. And that's not the plan there in Tuscaloosa.